クソ虫が
If I were to ask you the question, what makes you feel anxious, I'm sure something would instantly materialize within your mind. Something that's probably personal to just you. But what if I were to tell you that all of these fears, no matter who you are, stem from the very same fatal crutch? One that can be abused and twisted in any way imaginable. It's in this way that Aku no Hana manages to paint its narrative a shade of dark gray, while seemingly writing an utterly painful thesis on one of mankind's biggest problems: anxiety. In the book The Concept of Anxiety, published by Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, anxiety is defined as an unfocused fear that manifests in the choices of man. Kierkegaard parallels his definition with a metaphor of a man standing on the edge of a cliff. When the man looks over the edge, he experiences a centralized fear of falling, but spite of reason, the man feels a wretched impulse to throw himself intentionally off the edge. Kierkegaard believes the mere fact that one has the possibility and freedom to do something, even the most terrifying of things, triggers immense feelings of dread. However, he also believes this dread should be a recognition or realization of one's true identity and freedoms. And this is where our main protagonist, Kasuga, lies in episode 1 of the series, at the edge of this metaphorical cliff, where he's presented with the option to do the morally wrong thing. And mind you, it's a very long fall down if he were to be caught. However, even knowing this, he seemingly shatters our expectation and decides to risk the treacherous leap down to complete social ostracization, which also just so happens to be the one thing that makes him truly anxious. It's in this way that Aku no Hana first explores the concept of anxiety through its bleak themes. I believe the presentation here is what really sells its point home. We, the watcher, are very familiar with the emotion and feelings behind anxiety, but seldom does one confront it with such crass impudence, and it's this decision that really kicks off the overarching tone of the narrative. Everything past this point is a direct result of one moment. It really tries to inflict this painful experience onto the watcher through every means possible, whether that be the unsettling cinematography or the unmelodic yet gorgeous soundtrack, or even the almost dreamlike rotoscoping visual style. And while I will dissect all of these individually, I think it's more important to foremost recognize the glue that holds all these parts in place: the characters. Even before our clouded protagonist has any chance to feel any regret, he is met with an ostensibly unstable classmate by the name of Nakamura, who witnesses his deplorable act and grows an almost terrifying fixation with him, threatening him with the secrecy of his crime, demanding he abides by her every whim. While blackmail in and of itself is terrifying, it's not this that makes her character feel threatening to even us, the viewer. It's what we don't know about her. There's a common theme in Western horror films for the main antagonist to be a raging, psychotic lunatic. Take John Carpenter's Halloween, for example. While far from a perfect film, it tries to encapsulate and distill this trope by having its main antagonist, Michael Myers, a mute. Without dialogue, understanding his motives and getting a read on his behavior is virtually impossible, and this, in essence, is what drives the fear into the watcher, the fear of the unknown. Normally, people's behavior can be predicted with relative consistency based on commonly understood emotions. However, when you have a character like Nakamura that seemingly goes out of her way to break these commonly understood patterns and constantly challenges what we know to be social norms, we lose that level of security and we start to fear the individual. In this sense, Nakamura can be seen as the very embodiment of anxiety and everything we fear about it. In the same way anxiety stems from the idea of the unknown, her behavior seems to break the conception of what we believe to be normal and is thereby unpredictable. As you've probably been hearing throughout the course of the video, the OST of this series is almost criminally soothing, I would even go to say. Take the haunting track titled Kage, for example. It employs a method of composition that tries to establish a theme through a use of deep, off-key bass notes and a semi-repeating pattern, but then goes to purposely break this pattern with the start of a very subtle crescendo that leads into what's known as the coda, or climax, of this piece, which you'll hear now. This piece is an excellent summation of the eerie style of composing that tonally best fits a series of this nature. At its foremost, it presents a beautiful and unmelodic style, but falls back on the breaking of expectation to really drive its personality forward. And it's through its unpredictable nature that it really invokes the feeling of uneasiness that this story is trying to drive home. And this feeling they're trying so hard to portray could not be better complemented by the mesmerizing cinematography that stays so consistent throughout the entire series. It plays around with very experimental and unconventional angles. One of my favorite examples of this being the backwards framed shot of a mirror on a street post. It doesn't focus on our subject, rather their environment, which is supposed to create a feeling of distance between the watcher and our supposed focus. Shots like these are key in breaking the conventions of standard cinematography and are used to make us feel unsettled, even if it's just subconsciously. Also, I'd like to bring attention to the extremely liberal use of overly long cuts that like to overstay their welcome by a long margin. Perhaps my favorite use of this technique are used to highlight the awkward silence between the two characters, like this scene in the hallway between Kasuga and his crush Saiki, or this mind-blowing dialogue-free 7-minute sequence of Kasuga and Nakamura robotically walking home while holding hands. This scene in particular pushes this approach to the absolute limit and gives you no other choice but to reflect on the sheer oddity of the situation and the shocking scene that preceded this one. It's direction choices like these that really made the series. If you strip away the nuances the animation team decided to add, you're left with a rather mediocre and lackluster series that would lose most, if not all, its poignancy. In fact, tone is almost everything in this series. All of its impact rests on its ability to pull you in during those key moments, where it writes a story of its own all in the back of your mind, where it will painfully linger. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate if you let me know in the comments below. And also feel free to leave any feedback, positive or negative. It's all greatly appreciated. And if you want to be notified when a new video goes up, I'm pretty sure you know how that works by now. You go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And yeah, thanks for watching.